I'm not sure how to do that because I could never grow that in a million years. No. Are we ready? Okay, Councilman, you coming back soon? You coming back soon? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, December 20th agenda session. I will now take a motion on our minutes. Have a motion for the minutes, and they will stand without objection. This afternoon, we have ordinances on final reading. We have an item under council office. I believe, Madam Vice Chair, you'd like to address. You have the floor, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman. Item A addresses the veto that Mayor Kelly did regarding the record ordinance. So we do have here on the agenda overturning of the veto, so we can go ahead and amend the ordinance. So Joda, you come up and give us more information on that.
Yes. So first off, thank you, Council. I do want to reiterate that the administration appreciates all the work that has gone into this ordinance thus far. We feel that 90% of the ordinance or more really was a really strong step in the right direction. But as you know, Mayor Kelly issued a veto notice to this body because we had some concerns over some specific rates. I want to specifically thank Vice Chair Dotley, Chairman Ledford, and Mark Shackelford, that represents the towing industry, for being willing to have a discussion about a possible a resolution to this issue. And I'm pleased to say that the industry and the administration were able to reach an agreement where we were able to agree on a reduced rate schedule for Class A towing, which is the class of towing that the vast majority of the public experiences. These are lightweight vehicles that you and I drive every day, pulling them down from $250 for a daytime tow rate and then $275 for a nighttime tow rate to $225 for a daytime tow rate and $250 rather for a night and weekend tow rate. And all of this would be indexed to inflation and updated annually, subject to approval by the Beer and Record Board per our amendment. And again, we feel like this amendment is gets us to a fairer place for Chattanoogans, and they are rates that the mayor believes are a better deal for the city. And so we appreciate the industry being willing to negotiate and come to the table, and we are pleased that we were able to reach a positive conclusion to this discussion, and we hope that council approves the amendment.
Just for the record, if I might, Joda, yes, and you thank you for that compliment. We did not, the Madam Vice Chair, have a conversation with the industry together. That was a separate conversation at separate times.
That is an important distinction, Mr. Chairman. The administration.
Make sure that I make that very clear for the record.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much, Joda, and I appreciate you all still.
Hang on, I think Phil
I'm
needed
sorry,
to.
Phil. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Phil, you need to say something.
Yeah, and I guess the item that is on your agenda for this evening is an ordinance that would be passing the ordinance over the mayor's veto. And I believe I'm understanding that you would like to add to the agenda this evening a first reading of an item that would be along the terms that have been at least agreed to by the towing industry for an A-class daytime tow of $225 and night and weekend tow of $250. And then there would be a provision for an annual increase every January based on the annual inflation increase from prior month's data to be approved each year by the Beer and Record Board. And those were the only changes I think that you were wanting to do, but I think it would require a substitution this evening to include those changes.
Okay, that'll be fine, and we can vote on it in one, not in one reading, but on just item A. So
Yes,
all those changes would be okay.
Instead of passing the ordinance to override the veto, you would pass this revised version. Here's the third version.
It's the third version.
Yes.
So how will we address item A then?
The item A should come up and substitute the ordinance amending this charge with those minor changes.
Okay. Make sure that's clear.
So Phil, let me get this so I'm understanding. we have a decision to make as a body to replace item A, which is an override of the mayor's veto, with a substitute ordinance on first reading.
Yes, sir.
Is that what I'm understanding?
I believe that's the easier method here because it
Okay.
does actually, the override ordinance basically passes the original ordinance without any changes. I think that would be the simpler method.
Okay. Am I to understand that correctly?
Yes, sir. And I will be
Okay.
glad to read into the record those two changes for you if that will help this.
Okay. I'd love questions, comments from council.
Yeah.
Dr. Burrs?
So I guess my question is, I understood something different. So I
Yes.
want to make sure I got this right. I understood that you would override in the strategic planning
Planning session.
meeting, the
Yes.
public meeting where
Yes.
everyone could hear everything that was going on. I understand that there were two steps. One was override the veto and then immediately substitute okay. And now I'm hearing something different and I'm just trying to get what.
The item on your agenda this evening is item A, which is passing the ordinance after second reading here following the veto of the mayor. If you wish to add at the end of that, passing a new ordinance with those changes, then I think you can do that at that point in time as a substitution. But we'll get that
Rather
done.
than override the veto?
You would need.
Or, I'm sorry, it's
Yes.
unclear to me.
You can do that as overriding the veto and passing this ordinance as amended if you wish. But it's going to require two readings, and that could be the first reading, and then the second reading could be on January the 10th. Okay,
That's fine. We'll do that.
Okay,
That was the understanding.
all right.
yeah,
And I'll announce those amendments when we get to that point. Make them-
okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm clear now. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You good, Dr. Burrs?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I have better, thank you for that question because I
All right.
understand it better now because of what's written in front of us. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Councilman Hester?
So to bring us to a better understanding, so the daytime towing is changing from 250 to 225, night from 275 to 250. However, does that include the weekend and the holiday too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Clearing it up.
Yes, sir.
All right. I think that's clear for everyone if I'm seeing no lights. So if there are no further questions on item A, we will, I believe, Phil, do you need instruction from us to do that?
All I need is the opportunity to explain that during your meeting here, during the open meetings portion, and that
Okay.
is the amendment, and then y'all will have to vote on it to determine whether you wish to do that or not.
So we will see I don't want to say alternate item A. We will see a
Amendment. to,
amendment,
to
an
item-
amended version of item A
Yes, sir.
that covers what we just discussed.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so,
Get
all right.
that for you.
I think I understand it.
Yeah, thank you. Do we need a
Yes,
roll?
Madam Vice Chair.
And for this item, do we need a roll call vote?
I think that would be wise because that's the reason for it being here to begin with, and that's required by the charter.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I'll make a note of that this evening. Any other questions or comments on this item? Thanks, everybody, for working independently, very hard on this to present to this council. Take a look, if you will. We have some ordinances on final reading under finance, legal. All of these we have seen before. We have planning items on second read. I will not go over those. Public Works. We do have an item under planning for first reading, which we will conduct a public hearing on that. Under resolutions, we have the office leases at the Family Justice Center renewals. Dr. Burrs, anything we need to know there? Yep, this is an annual item for us. Thank you, Nicole. If you'll look under the Family Justice Center, Dr. Burrs, you want to maybe take that one for us, since that was added? That's item F, ma'am. I tend to look for you for anything related to Family Justice Center. Okay, great. Yes, ma'am.
Um, oh, all right. So the Family Justice Center survives on a lot of grants.
Mhm.
And this is just giving permission to accept if awarded a reimbursable grant from the Tennessee Department of Health. You can read it for yourself, of $30,000 per year in the amount of $120,000.
Very good. And this was a time-sensitive item that was brought to my attention, which is why you'll see it in front of
Sure.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Parks and Outdoors. I believe this item could have a level of complexity, Joda.
That is right. The administration would request that we are able to withdraw this while we work out a few details, and then we would, as we resolve those details, then bring it back to council.
Okay. Does anyone have any objections to that on this evening? All right, Phil, if you will remove item G, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Under Public Works, we talked about a little bit at TPO today. So we're very excited about the Wilcox Boulevard Bridge. We've covered that many times, and now moving over to TDOT's hands and in the design and build process. So seeing no questions or comments, moving into purchasing, we have one edit that Nicole just handed out to us. If you'll pay attention to, I believe, is that the second purchasing item that was moved from sole source over to our main sheet due to the dollar amount being over $50,000. So you'll see those three purchases for this evening. Questions or comments on purchases? All right, several lights. Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chairman. This evening, we have a handful of RFPs that are being brought to us related to the work of our Chief Housing Officer. I'd like to invite Nicole Heyman to come up and just fill everybody in on where we're headed with these and the why of them.
Sure. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate the support as we're starting to build our housing ecosystem, our affordable housing ecosystem here in the city.
Hey, Nicole, can I get you to stop one quick second? It's just because I have a couple of other lights under purchases. Can I put a pin in that just for a
You
second?
sure can.
Okay, Councilman Henderson, I want to give you an opportunity, and then Councilwoman Coonrod.
This is not purchasing. We can go back to it.
Are you okay to move on with
Yes.
the RFPs?
Just
Okay,
come
Councilwoman
back to it.
Coonrod?
Thank you, Chair. My question is about the Community Violence Intervention Consultant Services. So I've researched the organization, which I think, hey, they do fabulous work. But if we looking at a city that they're coming from in Chicago, where already they have 442 homicides and over 2,000 acts of violence, and it's increasingly more, like this is a city that has heavy crime in it. Like, what are they going to be able to do for Chattanooga if they're not even if they are working within this Chicago, Illinois, and those numbers are that high? What are they going to do here in Chattanooga that the people that we've hired and trusted to do the work that they're not currently already doing?
Councilwoman, I think that's a great question. And I think a couple of things are important to note there. This, obviously, as you know, Chicago is a very large city. And the work that Mr. Kerr and his organization did through Cure Violence in Chicago is heralded as a model, partly because when they drilled down into the neighborhoods they did work in, they saw a statistically significant reduction in violence. And this is important for us as we pursue community violence interruption efforts, which I believe you've championed in the past. And this is something that the administration supports and is a supporter of. You know, this council and this administration has invested a significant amount of money in mentorship initiatives, youth violence reduction initiatives, as well as a violence interruption program through Brother Kevin Muhammad's organization. And it is important from the administration's perspective that we bring the correct amount of support to those organizations with national expertise, which is why we put this RFP out to make sure that there is oversight for those dollars and that those organizations are set up for success, which is why we're bringing this RFP to you today, or rather this contract that went through the RFP process to you today. Additionally, this is Norman Kerr was referred to this RFP process by the United States Department of Justice as a leading expert in this work. And we feel confident that he is going to be in a strong position to really support the city's violence reduction efforts. And we urge approval of this item.
You said something that's important. I'm gonna always be supportive. However, my concerns is, like I said before, that they're working within a city that in 2020, and the numbers are going up, 442 homicides till today, with increasingly high acts of violence. And we're saying, we want you to come to Chattanooga and show Chattanoogans how the work can be done when we've hired and entrusted people to say, we believe in the work that you're doing. That's why we recruited Uncle Joe to come from Memphis to do the same exact thing. That's why we have Troy on the ground doing the work that he has. And I just don't think we've given them a fair opportunity to even really do the work, or we're micromanaging the work that they're doing to try to execute the results that we need here in Chattanooga. And we keep putting a Band-Aid on it to say, okay, well, we're going to have a skating ring party, or we're going to have a party at the National Guard, and that's supposed to automatically reduce the violence that's happening in our community, but we're not addressing the bigger picture that's happening within our community, within our cultures, within our families, or none of that. So I would like to see the recommendation that came from the United States, who you said made a highly and favorable recommendation for it. And I also like to see the bids, the RFP that went out in the process. I'm not saying that I'm against this individual, but I do have some concerns if we're recruiting from a city who has high numbers and we're saying, come show us how we can best do the work. I'm just unsure if I'm just not convinced. I mean, I'd be happy to talk to you about it more, but I would really like to see the RFP that went out, the bids, the proposals that came in, and I'd love to see his recommendation that came in as well.
Councilwoman, I'm happy to get you some of that information. And again, they were referred over by the US DOJ, but again, they did go through the RFP process, the same as any of the other organizations that went through and were scored. I think one thing that's important to clarify is that while Norman Kerr has worked in Chicago in the past, he's no longer primarily working in Chicago. I don't think that Chicago's crime rates today are a reflection of the work he's done over the last 20 years. He's now working in several American cities, and I'm happy to get you a list of those
That's
cities.
fine. I just, requesting the information. I mean, I understand your standpoint, and I want you to understand mine. I'm not saying I'm against him at all. I'm just asking for the additional information, and also if you can include the people, the participants that were on the scoring committee.
I'm happy
I'd
to
like
provide
have
that
as
information.
well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Henderson, you okay? I want to make sure you got an opportunity. I saw your light earlier, sir.
I don't have a question about purchasing.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks, Joda. Nicole, are you ready for a restart?
I am.
All right.
Thank you again.
Take two.
Thank you again.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have 3 RFPs in front of you guys today, and all of them are really instrumental in helping us and set the table for what is going to be our affordable housing strategy going forward. The first, I believe, I'm not sure how they're listed on yours, but on mine, the first is a market analysis report. This market analysis will come in and provide us the foundational data that we need to understand the housing market in Chattanooga, both affordable and market rate housing in all of our neighborhoods. It will help us quantify the number of rental properties, subsidized properties, naturally occurring affordable properties in the city, and where their market is in value from a highest value down to a low or no value, and then help us drive interventions in those markets to ensure that we're building affordability. The market analysis that we anticipate will also have some predictive analysis in it and will help us to understand better where we have gentrification and displacement risks, so that we can get ahead of that as we formulate our affordable housing investment strategy. So that's the first RFP. The second RFP is for a consultant to undertake a full affordable housing systems review. I anticipate that this consultant will come in and help us take a deep dive into what we're already doing in affordable housing. So really looking at our entitlement money, our HUD dollars, our home dollars, our CDBG dollars, our partners on the ground and what their capacity is to absorb that money and get those dollars out the door. They're going to be looking at things like our land use and zoning tools to incentivize developers and help us come up with recommendations for you to consider to change some of those laws. And also, they're going to help us really take a deep dive into our pilot and TIF policies and restructure, if need be, our pilot and TIF strategy so that we're really using those as tools to ensure that we're getting the economic development and affordable housing investments that they should be driving in the community. So that's the second one. And then the third one is for a consultant to come in and help manage all the consultants and help provide capacity to me as I try to move this work forward. All of the consultants will be working alongside each other and sharing data, and we'll also be pulling together focus groups and going into each and every council district and in the community. So I need some capacity to help me make sure that as we do this work, there is somebody who is coordinating among the consultants, making sure we're not duplicating efforts, making sure we're using the same terminology and the same data, and then helping go out and inform the community of our approach so that they can come to the table and provide input as we develop an affordable housing strategy. So those are the 3 RFPs that are before you today.
Well, thank you, Nicole. I have one light. Councilwoman Coonrod, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So the role that Miss Sandra Gober, that she has, and because a lot of what you mentioned, I've witnessed her from years, even prior to me coming on council, that she was doing this exact same work. So what will her now role be if we're hiring somebody else to do what she was doing, or what will be the difference?
Sandra's role will be exactly the same as it is today. We're really asking for somebody to come in and help us make sure that we're being really smart with what we're doing with our money going forward, and that if there is an opportunity to leverage the investment that the administration is making in affordable housing to make sure that we're getting a bigger bang for our buck with our home dollars and our CDBG dollars, that we're doing that, and also helping us evaluate capacity of the organizations that receive the money to make sure that they're getting the dollars out the door and producing the affordable product that we're anticipating. So it's really to help Sandra and her team build capacity externally and internally and help her make decisions about how she deploys those dollars. So Sandra's position is the same. This is really just to help add capacity to her team.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the 3 RFP requests? Remember, RFPs are requests for proposal, not an awarding of any contract at this time, but to go out and issue a proposal.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Just
right.
issuing a proposal in anticipation of responses.
Very good. Thanks,
Great.
Nicole. I'm seeing no other lights.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I believe we have no emergency purchases this evening. Very good. So if you would take a look at future considerations and hit your lights, please, if you have any questions. Several reappointments. Public Works, Parks, 1 planning item. Councilwoman Hill, I see your light. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. Number 7A under planning, if Dan could come and just briefly explain to us how this particular real estate and housing needs market study is different from those that we're going to be investing in from the affordable housing side.
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Hill and Dan Reuter with the RPA. And there's a lot of money up here, by the way. I'm not sure if this is for me. Carrying you some quarters.
Oh, change. I got it.
So we probably 5 years ago, there was a market study done for both the city and the county to look at both residential, office, retail, industrial space what we think is the needs for space and growth. We use that data partly for our transportation models, just to understand what, when we look at how we modeled future traffic, what kinds of changes are anticipated. In particular, this year, we are going to spend a lot of time focused on housing needs. So there absolutely is some overlap with the work that Nicole and her consultants are going to do. Again, this update or this market study is going to look at all real estate, again, industrial, retail, commercial, office development. And in particular, again, look at countywide and really as much as we can get into the market area beyond the county in some ways, just what's happening with kind of our current job profile, what kinds of jobs are residents have in the city and the county, what kinds of demographics, family composition they have. Are they singles? Are they students? Or they larger families? And then what kinds of construction and housing has been built in the city and the county? And then, again, make recommendations going forward, what seems to be the needs in the future. Again, it's a complex question and it's all forecasting, but it is information that's going to help us with both the city and county-wide comprehensive plans that we'll be doing in the next year. We have some consultant teams that we've selected for those that we don't have under contract yet, so I won't announce them. But we do want to have as much specifics and as much information that we can provide council and the Board of Commissioners in the unincorporated area about just what our ultimate growth needs are going to look like and what kinds of policy actions or changes to our zoning codes and things like that we should try to undertake. So, I mean, I think ours is just bigger picture. But absolutely, as Nicole has her consultants on board and we have ours, we have plenty of needs. We do not need to overlap with her consultants. If they're going to be producing certain kinds of data, we definitely don't want to duplicate that. So we just have to work really closely and make sure that doesn't happen.
Is it possible, Dan, that part of the work that's going to be done by that consultant coordinator is about making sure that everybody is using the same language to describe the same things? Is it possible that you and Nicole can get on the same page about that so that as we as a council, as we're looking at overall city planning, and that would be wonderful and,
yeah,
and
I think
helpful.
that's a good point. And in some cases, I mean, there's a lot of publicly available data. There's data that we, the city and the county produce, by, just from our tax data. But then there's just other data on some of these issues that you just have to purchase. And that's where our consultant will already have those contracts to go just buy that data and they'll just give it to us. So, I mean, some of it's just proprietary. And so we just want to have as much as we can get.
Yeah, I see with this and with the chief housing officer's request that we have a lot of knowledge that we need to gain very quickly. So this feels like the sprint to then do some of the marathon work related to individual area plans, related to our overall housing strategy. But did want to put a fine point on, let's make sure that we're using the same language so that it's useful across the board. Thank you
Absolutely
very
agree.
much.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions for Dan? Dan, that is coming out of the RPA Reserve Fund. Okay, thought we mentioned that, I think, last week, but wanted to mention that again. Seeing no other lights, future considerations? All right. We have no department reports. We have no committees this afternoon, and our attorney-client has already taken place. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to go back to 7G.
7G.
I want to make sure I understood a comment I thought you made. Did you instruct the city attorney to take that off the agenda?
The administration has asked for that to be withdrawn.
Okay. So this is more of a process thing. I
Sure.
thought we take things off the agenda if they're on the proposed agenda, but if it's on the current agenda, I thought it had to come before the council and remove it through a vote.
The chair has discretion to remove items on here, but if he wishes
course,
to have that.
And I guess maybe this would be for discussion
that we had in our strategic planning, but I guess we have always been told by the city attorney that if it's on the current agenda so that somebody doesn't show up at 6 and an item has just disappeared off of that current agenda, we're addressing it in public rather than just removing it, even though it's been requested to be withdrawn. It's just a process question. And
Sure.
maybe that's something we need to get ironed out in strategic planning. To me, it just seems like if it's on the current agenda, it needs to be dealt with by the entire council. Now, if it's on the proposed agenda, like we have stressed many times, there's no problem.
Yeah, I
But-
see I see your question. So my question to the city attorney, what motion would remove that?
Just a motion to withdraw.
Motion to
To
withdraw.
motion to withdraw at 6 o'clock. So we can also do that. Would the council prefer that? And I understand, I see what you're saying, but the chair does, and while I'm in an open meeting with you all, but if that makes it easier,
As opposed to a closed door meeting or what?
well, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that, sir. So we'll leave it on the agenda, Mr. Noblet, and I have a feeling there will be a motion to withdraw by
Sure.
someone on this council. Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
Then I have one other item.
Yes, sir.
At our strategic planning that was very public and advertised, we talked about having a work session on the 10th at 12. I texted Chris Acuff, and he's bumping up against the time
Unavailable.
schedule in the after. So what I was going to propose to see if we might want to start at 11:30. He could stay a full 2 hours with us if we bumped it to 11:30, if it's
If we
agreeable
can
to-
get him, I think that's wonderful.
Okay.
So,
So
okay.
our very public work session will be at 11:30 on the 10th.
Okay, and that will be found on our website and in our minutes. So anybody can see that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
That's all
Councilman
for me.
Henderson. Appreciate it very much, sir. Madam Vice Chair, I see your light.
Yes, there was a planning item number 2022-0240 that was that I asked to be taken off the agenda until we were able to get with the community and developer. They did do that. They did a wonderful job in ensuring that the community was aware of what was going on. I really commend both the community and developer for getting this done. So I'm asking if it can be placed back on the agenda for January the 10th.
January the 10th. Okay,
Mhm.
this is the case in committee that, yes, and that's case 0240.
Yes.
You would like to have that placed on for first reading on January 10th?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or other business to come before council before we adjourn till 6? All right, we're adjourned till 6.